Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So we are beginning now on the second session, part 2 of our seminar on advancing in Krishna consciousness during the lockdown. We mentioned last time that actually this lockdown it has been a big benediction for many devotees, even last year, and they were able to read a lot and chant and get deeper realizations in Krishna consciousness. It was a time for introspection and thinking about, what is this artificial civilization, and how is it that we are not able to advance in Krishna consciousness? And well, they found the reason, because they are so busy and absorbed in their material activities. Okay, so session 2 we begin today. And at the end of the session, if you have any questions, you could ask. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that in 24 hours, you can divide the time into 3. So that means 8, 8, and 8 hours. Out of that, 8 hours should be used for bodily maintenance, like sleep, eating, bathing, etc. 8 hours for work, and remaining 8 hours for spiritual activity. So the spiritual activity was meant to be 8 hours long. But nowadays, it's not like that. Of course, for city people, this is very difficult, but I'm just giving you a guideline. And that's why Srila Prabhupada always spoke about householders shifting to self-sufficient farm communities where they'll be able to grow their own food and manage their spiritual life much better. In the last session, we began to cover the list of sadhana practices essential for any sadhak. What is a sadhak? A sadhak is someone who does sadhana bhakti. In other words, somebody in the preliminary stage of bhakti. Okay, so we look again at those list of the practices of sadhana that everyone should have in their day, any serious devotee. Now, we are not looking at 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles. That is assumed. Okay, that is assumed that everyone should be practicing. That is the entry level. Otherwise, we have no standing in spiritual life if we don't chant 16 rounds. Okay, we may start off with a fewer number of rounds. In future, you can reach that platform. But at least somebody who wants to take Diksha, or who has taken Diksha, or who has a serious plan to try to advance, for such a person, 16 rounds is the minimum. Okay, and the 4 regulative principles: no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no meat eating. So these are the basic things which should be followed. Okay, now we'll just have a look at the list of sadhana practices that should be followed by everyone. Okay, so here. So the points we will look at to establish good sadhana. We said that sleep timings, rising early and following the morning program, reading Bhagavad Gita, Shrimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, hearing lectures of Srila Prabhupada and our Diksha Guru, learning and memorizing shlokas, preparing bhoga for Krishna, and very important, reducing TV time and electronic asatsanga. Oh, okay, so One more thing I want to mention about sleep regulation. This verse might be familiar with some of you. The previous session, we looked at sleeping early. This spiritual life, I would say, some say it begins with waking up early. I will say it begins with sleeping early. You cannot wake up early if you're not sleeping early. So sleeping early gives us good energy and make a fresh mind next morning to practice spiritual life. And there's that famous saying, which I quoted last time, English saying, widely known: early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. They also knew that. Okay, so good sadhana. These are the points, all right? And this time, today we're going to cover rising early and following the morning program. Okay, now it looks, we could go fast, but there's so much to mention that it looks like it's going one a day, 1 point per day. Hopefully we'll finish before lockdown ends. But I don't think this lockdown will end so fast. They're saying 2 weeks, but anyway. All right, so rising early and following the morning program. This is the second point we're looking at. We're going to primarily look at quotes of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let's begin. Srila Prabhupada quoted this many times in his purports, in his lectures and conversations. Now we're looking at Nectar of Instruction, verse 3, the purport. In this Krishna Consciousness movement, we require everyone to rise early in morning by 4 a.m. and attend Mangalarati or morning worship, then read Srimad Bhagavatam, perform Kirtan, and so forth. Thus we hold continuous activities in devotional service 24 hours daily. This is called Satovritti, or following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, who expertly fill every moment of time with Krishna conscious activities. So Srila Prabhupada says here that we require everyone in this movement, Krishna consciousness, to rise early in the morning. So notice he's not saying that brahmacharis should get up early, sannyasis, everyone, even grahasthas, and attend Mangalarti, morning worship. Then read Srimad Bhagavatam, perform Kirtan, so forth. Thus, continuous activities in devotional service 24 hours a day. Okay, now this point here. This is called Satovritti. This particular verse of Nectar of Instruction, it's giving 6 points which help one to increase enthusiasm in devotional service. Utsaha nishya dherya tat karma pravartanat. What was it? Satovritti. Third one was tat karma pravartanat. Okay, forgot. But Satovritti means following in the footsteps of the acharyas. Okay, so why are we, there are many reasons why we perform the morning program. But one is that our acharyas did that. Srila Prabhupada did that. His guru and his guru. They did that. So we can analyze and see why we do it. But the point is that gurus have recommended it and it was practiced by previous acharyas. Okay, so, and it says here, rise early by 4 a.m. If you look at Srila Prabhupada's quotes, he mentions this in many, many places. Rise by 4 a.m., 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is the cutoff. There's some reason for that, I'm not particularly sure, but something to do with Brahma Muhurta timings. But one point that, as I mentioned, that in living in the city for Grahasthas, it's difficult. So some Maharajas say that, some gurus say that, okay, 5 o'clock for them. Okay. Next quote. Any member of the family who is above 12 years, okay, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 3, Text 22. Srila Prabhupada is saying that any member of the family who is above 12 years of age should be initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, and all members of the household should be engaged in the daily service of the Lord, beginning from morning, and this bracket is there in the purport, I didn't add it, 4 a.m. till 10 p.m. by performing Mangalarati, Nirajan, Archan, Puja, Kirtan, Shringar, Bhoga Vaikali, Sandhya Arati, Pata, Bhoga, Shayanarati, etc. But it begins with morning program. For a devotee, the day begins with the morning program. And when that goes well, then the whole day goes well. Okay, and then devotees are engaged all day somehow in devotional service till 10 p.m. And 10 p.m., we better sleep before 10, otherwise we won't wake up by 4 the next day. Now, some people may say, we cannot do that, we have work. Well, now the lockdown is there, so you can. Okay, next point. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 21. Early in the morning, the devotee has to rise from his bed and pray to the Lord. And there are other regulative principles for offering Mangalarti early in the morning. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly in the purport, there's so many places where Srila Prabhupada says this about waking up early. Has to rise from his bed and pray to the Lord. Okay, another quote. The 4th canto, chapter 27, text 24. This quote, Srila Prabhupada is being really heavy, quite strict. According to the Vedic principles, one should rise early in the morning, take bath, chant Hare Krishna, offer Mangalarti to the deities, study Vedic literature, take prasad, and engage in dressing and decorating the deities. One must also collect money for the temple expenditures, or if one is a householder, he must go to work in accordance with the prescribed duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. In this way, one should live a life of spiritual understanding, and this is the Vedic way of civilization. One who does not follow all these rules and regulations is called a Yavana or Lecha. Here, Srila Prabhupada is quoting very heavily at Vedic civilization means Varnashram. It's what is the speciality about Varnashram culture? Because there are many cultures all over the world. The speciality is that it's a spiritual, God-centered culture. Different cultures around the world, let's say like Chinese, Arab, or African, European, American, they are simply a way of dressing, eating, and living, which evolved according to the environment and the people. Now, when we say Vedic culture or Indian culture, it's not the case. This is the Vaikuntha culture, which is descended and which is elaborated on in the Vedas. And the purpose is self-realization. This is the only culture which is centered around self-realization, primarily. Others may be partially, but every single thing in Vedic culture is for this purpose. And so, those who followed Vedic culture, they were known as Aryans. Aryans, Prabhupada writes in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the purport, I think it's text 2, that Aryan was simply someone who followed the spiritual way of life, who made his purpose of life self-realization, which is, that is, as I said, Vedic culture primarily. Okay, so, and that begins with offering Mangalarti, waking up early, taking a bath, etc. Another quote in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 8, Text 8. We must rise early in the morning, bathe, attend Mangalarti, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced. Now, another point mentioned, another point introduced here. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down. So now, for someone who wants to remain fixed and advanced in this practice of Krishna consciousness, so attending Mangalarati and of course all these other activities are very important. But it begins with Mangalarti. We'll see later on how if we don't begin the day with Mangalarti and this activity, then even throughout the day, it will be very difficult to follow or maintain our sadhana in other ways. Okay, so of course, like we say, attend Mangalarti, worship the deities. Now here, look at this, chant Hare Krishna. If we did not attend Mangalarti, even this chanting will be difficult. It will be difficult because in order to chant, we have to have a clear mind and be somewhat on Krishna on the level of Sattva Guna. Sorry, excuse me, I'm coughing. So if we attend Mangalarti, then our chanting will be good because we would have been raised to the Sattva Guna, especially bathing before Mangalarti. That puts us in clear consciousness, and then attending Mangalarti. And then by studying, when we study the Vedic literatures, we'll actually be able to understand the words and get the deeper philosophical, subtle import, meaning, because our mind will be clear. Okay, so if we didn't rise early and attend these programs, then anything else after that won't be so easy. Okay, and it says here, follow the rules prescribed by acharyas and spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced. So even someone as advanced, they have to continue following this. Next quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 24, text 98, purport. Only a pure devotee can convert others to pure devotional service. It is therefore important for all the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement to first become pure devotees and follow the regulative principles, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. They should regularly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on their beads, follow the devotional process, rise early in the morning, attend Mangalarti, and recite Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita regularly. In this way, one can become purified and free from all material contamination. This purport is centered on preaching. Only a pure devotee can convert others to pure devotional service. Now, some of you might think, okay, so I'm not going to preach, so that's not for me. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order that Bharat Bhumi Haile Manushya Janma Yar Janma Sthartak Kari Kara Para Upakara. Whoever has taken their birth in India must become perfect spiritually and Kara Para Upakar and do the greatest good, which is to preach the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order. But even Srila Prabhupada wanted that everyone in this movement become a preacher. So now we cannot really preach effectively unless we are ourselves purified. Okay, one who has bhakti can give bhakti. So all the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement, they must first become pure devotees. Okay, how? Follow the regulative principles, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. They should regularly chant the Hare Krishna mantra on their beads, follow the devotional process, rise early in the morning, attend Mangalarti, etc. We mentioned these points. So if someone is engaged in preaching, and as I mentioned, it should be all of us. Actually, we should all preach. And by preaching, our Krishna consciousness becomes very fixed and our knowledge becomes realized. Gyan becomes Vigyan. We get deeper realization of the philosophy. Because Krishna, being pleased, will give us intelligence how to preach and deeper understanding and vision of Shastric knowledge so that we can effectively preach. Which is because whatever we desire, Krishna gives that. Okay, so we have to preach. Now, for someone who's preaching, so it says here that these are the things he should do. One of them is that he should rise early in the morning. Okay. Next. This is a long quote from Nectar of Devotion, chapter 2. Every living entity under the spell of material energy is held to be in an abnormal condition of madness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, generally the conditioned soul is mad because he is always engaged in activities which are the causes of bondage and suffering. The spirit soul in his original condition is joyful, blissful, eternal, and full of knowledge. Only by his implication in material activities has he become miserable, temporary, and full of ignorance. This is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Therefore, we must practice sadhana bhakti, which means to offer mangalarti deity worship in the morning, to refrain from certain material activities, to offer obeisance to the spiritual master, and to follow many other rules and regulations which will be discussed here one after another. These practices will help one become cured of madness, as a man's mental disease is cured by the directions of a psychiatrist. So the sadhana bhakti cures the conditioned soul of his madness under the spell of Maya, material illusion. There's a quote, actually, a Bengali quote, that somebody who is in material consciousness, who is conditioned by Maya, he behaves like a madman. He's considered mad because he'll do and say things which are not normal. Well, not normal means all these material activities we do, they're not normal, they are artificial, and they are performed by one in a diseased condition of life. Disease in the sense that they are not in proper healthy state of mind. They are affected by Maya. So this is an abnormal condition of madness, this quote says. And generally, Bhagavatam says, the conditioned soul is mad because he's always engaged in activities which are causes of bondage and suffering. Why are we doing things which will make us take birth again? Why are we doing things which will give a reaction and make us suffer? Because we are mad, we don't know. By nature, the soul is originally joyful, blissful, and eternal, and full of knowledge, Satchidanand. But because he came in contact with the material energy, he became miserable, temporary, and full of ignorance. This is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Vikarma means things which are against Shastic injunction. So what is the cure for the madness? Sadhana Bhakti cures the conditioned soul of madness. Sadhana Bhakti, this is what we are terming these practices which a sadhak, one in the beginning stages of devotion, has to do to come to the proper stage of, to a higher stage of bhakti. Sadhana Bhakti. This is the cure. There is no other cure. There is no other way to be happy and to go back to our original state of peaceful eternality and happiness. The only cure is through Sadhana Bhakti. Okay, therefore, we must practice Sadhana Bhakti, which means to offer Mangalarti in the morning. This is the first thing Prabhupada says. It's the first thing. For a devotee, the first thing is wake up and offer Mangalarti. So to refrain from certain material activities, that also, and offer obeisance to the spiritual master, to follow many other rules and regulations which will be discussed. But these practices will help one become cured of madness. So Sadhana Bhakti begins with rising early and following the morning program. By rising early, a devotee is in very good consciousness because the Brahma Muhurta time makes our mind very clear and spiritually inclined. Another benefit, when we wake up early, we didn't do any activities which will disturb us and disturb our japa. If you say, I'll chant at 5 p.m., the whole day passed and there's so many things will be in our mind. But if the first thing we do is bhakti, devotional service, in the form of Mangalarati, seeing the deity, glorifying the deity, then this is very auspicious. It will be very good for us. Okay, and it helps us to become cured of this madness, under the spell of material illusion. Okay, the last quote. This is from Krishna book. This is explaining about Brahma Muhurta. Srila Prabhupada writes, the Brahma Muhurta takes place about 1.5 hours before sunrise. It's recommended that one should rise from bed at that time and after finishing daily ablutions, take to spiritual activities by performing Mangalarati and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. This period is very convenient for the execution of spiritual activities. For somebody who is keen to advance in spiritual life, this morning period is very valuable. Many times, especially in the temple, residents in the temple, brahmacharis, we have festivals, we have different things we do, and it goes till maybe 1 o'clock or 2. But there's a strict rule that we still have to wake up for Mangalarti. Because if you just analyze our whole life, we have fixed number of days. That means we have fixed amount of Mangalartis. So if we miss any, then we are missing the opportunity to advance. So we have to perform. Even if we sleep late, things are difficult, you can wake up early, attend Mangalarti, and specifically now we're talking about this lockdown. So those who can catch up their sleep in the afternoon if they're tired. But this morning hours, they're very important. very convenient for the execution of spiritual activities. So this period, Brahma Muhurta, is about 1.5 hours before sunrise. It is recommended that one should rise from bed at that time and take to spiritual activities. This is given in Krishna book. Okay, we keep mentioning morning program. What is the morning program? I suppose all of you know this. None of you are new, but just in case, it will be good to discuss it. Okay, when we say morning program, essentially it means prayers and worship, in other words, puja, kirtan, and vandan, performed before the deity. We wake up early, we offer prayers, we sing, and we do puja. This is what we mean by morning program in ISKCON. When we do that, we do it in front of an altar before the deity. Now, the altar should be bona fide and according to our Guru Parampara. A lot of us, because this is a fairly new movement, so many people who come to ISKCON, almost everyone is not born in it. So we were doing a different kind of worship and different system of puja. And we could also say we were worshiping different deities. Okay, so our altar maybe was different. Okay, I think you all know what altar means. Altar is where we place the deity or the picture that we pray to. The altar should be bona fide. In other words, it should be according to Guru Parampara. So in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, there's a way that we arrange the altar. So if you're going to do the morning program and attend in front of the altar, the best result is if we organize the altar exactly how it was taught to us by Srila Prabhupada. It was taught to us by Srila Prabhupada. And today, how all temples are set up. Okay, as you know, we worship Krishna. Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. And as it's saying in Srila Prabhupada's lectures, books, and our previous acharyas, if we worship Krishna, there's no need to worship anyone else. Okay, we respect everyone. We respect all demigods, all acharyas, but we have to follow our parampara. So parampara means we put Krishna, Radha Krishna on the altar, our Guru Parampara, Panchatattva, and Nrsingadev. As much as possible, because I'm assuming you're all devotees, I'm just making this point. As much as possible, we can stick to that actual altar. Our result in bhakti will be very good, because Krishna says, Ananya cheta satatam, yomam smarati nityasha, tasya aham sulabha parta, nitya yuktasya yogina. One who thinks of me, Ananya. Ananya means no other, only me. Ananya cheta satatam. Cheta, consciousness. Always thinking of me. Ananya cheta satatam, yomam smarati nityasha. So Krishna emphasizes many times, only worship me. Another place, Ananyas chintayantomam yejana paryupasate. Again, chinta means thinking of. Ananyas chinta, without thinking of anyone else, only me. Ananyas chintayantomam. So in this way, and of course that famous verse, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Give up all forms of worship and just worship me alone, ekam. So in this way, we see that Krishna says, worship me alone, worship only me. And if we follow his instruction, we will advance. So for devotee, we do not put pictures of demigods, or there are so many people who are claiming to be God, like Sai Baba, Ramakrishna, and these people. They should definitely not be there, because they are not God. Not only that, they're very offensive, claiming to be God, because God is Krishna, and whoever else, the avatars he came in, that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishnu, Krishna, Narasimha, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha. There's so many forms of God. But we should be exactly fixed. Now, if our altar is exactly proper, and I'll show you an example of how it is, should be, then when we perform our program, Krishna will be very pleased, our Guru Parampara will be pleased. Okay, so the altar should be bona fide according to our Guru Parampara. If we cannot have deities, Archa Vigraha, then we can also worship the pictures of the deity. That is okay. That is recommended actually for many people, because we cannot all worship deities. It's difficult. It requires a lot of attention and regulation in life. and some amount of wealth and many things and time, which many people don't have. So instead they do a lot of shortcuts, and then there's seva prad, and that blocks advancement, as you can see in Act of Devotion. For those who have deities and who are properly worshipping, then all glory is very nice. Okay, but especially new people who those are thinking of getting deities, better to have pictures and focus the deity worship in the temple. Of course, now there's a lockdown. So anyway, we can place proper pictures and worship them. And maybe in future, if we reach a stage where we can worship, we may get deities. But even if we carry on with pictures, that's okay. Okay. So what is the morning program? This is what it is. Okay. Now I want to give an example of a bona fide, or what we say pramanic altar, how it should be. Okay. This is an example. So here, Radha Krishna. Okay, it could be any different forms of Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna is our Ishtadev, worshipable deity in our Guru Parampara. Actually, some people worship different forms of Krishna, like Laddu Gopal, etc. Actually, strictly speaking, the Gaudiya Vaishnav Sampradaya is the members worship Radha Krishna primarily. Okay, and we also worship Nrsingadev and Panchatattva, that you'll see, and maybe Sitaram, Lakshan, Hanuman. But primarily Radha Krishna, because Krishna said himself, it's mentioned in Shastra that Mahaprabhu, this is the worship he recommended. Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanaya Tathama Vrindavanam. That we should worship Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanaya, the son of the king of Vraja, which is Krishna. And of course, wherever Krishna is, Radha is, so we put Radha Rani. Aradhya Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavan. We also worship Vrindavan. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadu Vargena Vakalpita. And we follow the mood of worship of the Vrajavadu. That means the gopis, it means in this verse. The mood of worship of gopis is how we worship. And they worship in separation. To understand more about that, you have to read the Shikshashtak verse, especially the last verse, the mood of separation. So in our ISKCON and Gaudiya Parampara, the worship of Radha Krishna is done, and then Panchatattva appears below. This is a picture, but this may be a step altar with steps. So on the topmost step is Radha Krishna. Second step, Panchatattva, Nrsingadev, and then Tulsi can be on the side of Nrsingadev, on the right side. Okay. And at the bottom are the Guru Parampara. Once someone asked Prabhupada that always in any puja we worship Ganesh first. So why isn't Ganesh worshipped? And he said that Ganesh is Vigna Vinashi. Vignesh, Vigna Vinashi. And our Guru Parampara is on the altar. So they are also, through them, all obstacles are overcome. They are fully purified. And so let those who worship do that in that way. But this is our system, the Gaudiya Parampara. So worship of Radha Krishna. Now Panchatattva, why do we worship Panchatattva? Because by the Panchatattva's mercy, have we got any qualification to worship? In this age, it's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that anybody who wants to approach Radha Krishna without coming through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will not be able to. Because we are born in Kali Yuga and we're not following so many things, we are not doing samskars, we are not involved in any spiritual process. And the fact that we're born in Kali Yuga means we are so contaminated. So we cannot approach Radha Krishna directly. We approach through, of course, Guru, and also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva. The Panchatattva also brought the Yuga Dharma of chanting Hare Krishna. And so, therefore, we worship them before we chant Hare Krishna. And any worship nowadays in Kali Yuga means we have to chant Hare Krishna. Okay, so Panchatattva are involved in any worship we do. Okay, because it's by their mercy that we are able to at all approach Radha Krishna in practice. Nrsingadev. Nrsingadev is Bhakti Vigna Vinasha. Now we want to attain love of Krishna, so we go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and try and get mercy. But Nrsingadev helps us to overcome obstacles to approaching Radha Krishna, obstacles to Bhakti. Bhakti Vigna Vinasha. Nrsingadev. Okay. And therefore, after our worship, we sing Nrsinga Stuti. Srila Prabhupada introduced that because in this Kali Yuga, as we expand and propagate more, then envious people will try to stop us. There will be challenges. So Srila Prabhupada instituted the singing of Nrsingadev, and in this way to overcome obstacles to Radha Krishna worship. Yeah, at the bottom we have the Guru Parampara. This Guru Parampara is connecting us to Krishna. So it's very important. Now, the Diksha Guru normally comes below this. It will not be on the same level as Guru Parampara. It will be one step below or on the puja tree. Okay. Now, again, this is a picture, but if it's a step ladder, so it will be Radha Krishna. Next step, Panchatattva, Nrsingadev. Next step, then Guru Parampara, and then Diksha Guru. Oh, Diksha Guru is on the puja table if we are doing Arati. But if somebody simply wants to put pictures, that's also okay. Actually, we have this picture which we give to new people whenever we preach, especially to young people, the youth who are not able to, they live in PG or whatever. So in one A4 sheet, we have everything. And they offer the bhoga, offer agarbatti, offer flowers. So it's very convenient. Okay, so this was an example of altar, which is according to the way that we were taught by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, now we were mentioning about the morning program, rising early and following the morning program. Now let's look at what we call liturgy. Liturgy is the different activities and things that we sing and chant in the morning. So when the morning program begins with Mangal Arati at 4:30 or in some places 5 a.m. or in some 5:30, but best is during Brahma Muhurta. So the morning program begins with Mangal Arati. There's an Arati to Radha Krishna and to everyone else on the altar. And at the same time, we chant Sri Guru Vashtak, which is a 8-verse song composed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, glorifying the Guru. This song is very deep, very enlightening. And it's recommended that when we sing, we learn the meaning of this song and meditate on it as we sing. Okay? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who wrote it, he said that anyone who chants this song with attention for every Brahma Muhurta in the morning attains liberation at the end of his life. So that's how important it is. These verses glorify Sri Guru. They're 8 verses, and they begin at from a kind of basic level, and they increase in the levels. How we see the Guru. Guru saves us from cycle of birth and death. Text 1. Text 2. He's glorifying. He's always relishing playing musical instruments and singing songs of Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he goes into ecstasy doing that. His hair stands on end. Romanchakam Pashu, Taranga Baju. Then 3rd verse of this song, he said that the Guru engages his disciple. He himself cleans the temple and does worship and engages his disciples in doing that. 4th verse, that the Guru likes to see his disciples honoring prasadam, the 4 kinds of eatable foodstuffs, Chaturvid, Shri Bhagavad Prasada, Swadvana Triptan, Hari Bhakta Sangam. So he likes to see his followers and disciples and devotees honoring prasad. Then number 5, that 5th verse is saying that the Sri Guru is always meditating on pastimes of Radha, Madhav, and aspires to relish these at every step. And that is number 5. Number 6, that the spiritual, it becomes much and more, the song, it goes higher and higher in, it becomes more esoteric and deeper way of seeing the Guru, more realized. So then a higher conception of seeing. So then the sixth verse, that the spiritual master is very dear to Krishna, Radha Krishna, because he's expert in making arrangements for the conjugal affairs of Radha Krishna in the Nikunja, in the groves of Vrindavan. Then number 7, the spiritual master is directly Krishna, because he is representing Krishna and carrying out his order. In that way, he's seen as Krishna. Otherwise, of course, Guru is Guru and Krishna is Krishna. But because Krishna is acting through the Guru, then we accept Guru is as good as Krishna. Then in the last verse, Yasya prasada, Bhagavad prasada, Yasya prasada, nagati kutopi. Only by the mercy of the spiritual master do we get Krishna's mercy. Without his mercy, we cannot get Krishna. So we have to please the spiritual master. Okay, it's very important. I gave some time to this because when we attend Mangalarti, we wake up early, we take bath, we do Mangalarti, we sing this song, we should know the meanings, we should meditate on it. This is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, who wrote it. Okay, so morning programs begins with Mangalarti. Then we sing Narasimha Stuti. We sing prayers to Lord Narasimhadev to get his blessing to overcome obstacles. Okay, and number 3, Tulsi Puja. We worship Tulsi, and at the same time we sing Tulsi Kirtan. Number 4, then Japa. We chant. In the temples, they'll put 2-hour Japa period. Maybe in your homes, you can see how to do it because you have to cook or do other activities. Darshan Arati, greeting the deities. Normally, the deities get new dresses, then Darshan opens again, and we greet the deities by singing a certain song. Okay, now, it may be some of these you cannot do after, but this is most important, Mangalarti, Narasimha Stuti. If you can do Tulsi Puja, if you can do everything during this lockdown, very good. Then Guru Puja, Guru Vandana, prayers to the Guru. It's a song in Bengali, which is again, glorification of Sri Guru and importance in spiritual life, what he does, how he's a very, you can say, active principle in spiritual life. So you notice that there are 2 songs in our morning program glorifying Sri Guru. It's important that we follow Sri Guru, worship, and glorify every morning. Then normally, Srimad Bhagavatam lecture follows the Guru Puja. Everyone sits down and either someone will give a class or we can hear recorded lectures. This is the morning program. Everyone, actually, we see that this is followed in all ISKCON temples, and Grahasthas or anyone living outside the temple should take part in the temple programs or perform these at their home. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted, that Grahasthas can attend the temple programs, but of course, lockdown is there. So you can all do it at your homes, okay? For further details, you can contact us here at the temple, but main point is that for us in 24 hours, the most important time in 24 hours is this portion of time. Everything else is external. In this portion of time, we should be attentive, we should be awake, we should be alert. And the rest of the 24 hours is simply surviving, keeping our body together, and so that we can eat and live, and so that we can attend Mangalarti and the morning program. Okay, but nowadays, unfortunately, it's become the side thing, and the main thing is the work, which takes up 10 or 12 hours for some people. So as I said in the beginning, Srila Prabhupada said that 8 hours for personal maintenance, sleep, eating, bathing, etc. 8 hours for work, occupation, and 8 hours for spiritual activity. So somehow we can work towards that as best as we can. Even those who are involved in work, it's not that we have to work whole life until old age, until we cannot do anything. It's good to at some point come out, let the children take over, and focus more on spiritual activity. This is the goal of life. Okay, so we can practice this at home, institute this in our daily sadhana, the most important part. Okay, and for more details, you can ask us how to do that. Okay, importance of the morning program. We consider this morning program very important. I was saying this is number 2 in our list. It should be number 1, but of course, number 1 is to regulate our sleeping. Otherwise, no question of morning program if we cannot sleep early and wake up early. So the importance of the morning program. Brahma Muhurta is a time when any spiritual activity will greatly impact our consciousness and purify us. So we should rise early and perform these activities, which are the perfect activities for advancement, as they are given by pure devotees. Srila Prabhupada gave us this. Now look at this point. Brahma Muhurta is a time when any spiritual activity will impact our consciousness. So as I said, in the rest of the 24 hours, whatever you do, you can do. But at Brahma Muhurta, we must be awake, we must be present, we must plan out that day properly, that we wake up in Brahma Muhurta fresh, and we don't do anything else except spiritual activity. We have a fixed number of days in our life. That means a fixed number of Brahma Muhurta times. So chanting Hare Krishna Brahma Muhurta is very, I don't know what figure to put. Maybe is 50 times more powerful than if you chant during the day and the night. It's much greater impact. Students know this. They wake up early. They know that the brain is very bright at this time. Consciousness is clear. So they use it to study and they absorb their information very fast. Okay, so for devotees, we're meant to use it for devotional service. Use this time properly. We have to plan our day so that this Brahma Muhurta time we're awake and we do this morning program. During this lockdown period, try to observe this. Now we don't have work. I mean, we have, some of you are working by at home, but it's a better situation than before. Okay, importance of the morning program. It helps us to become purified of material contamination. That by performing these activities at this particular time, the potency is so great that the lower modes are removed, Tamogun and Rajagun, and we be very sattvic. And third is its instruction of Sri Guru. Srila Prabhupada ordered it, and definitely our Diksha Gurus will be ordering it. So because of that, we should follow. Very important. If we wake up early and perform Mangalarti and follow this morning schedule, then our whole day is spiritualized. We can remain in good consciousness. We will remain enthusiastic and eager to perform devotional service and advance in Krishna consciousness. Advancement will be easier. Just try it 1 day or 2 days. See what a difference it makes to our spiritual life. Definitely advancement will be easier. Okay. So, in our effort to get good sadhana, yesterday, 2 days back, we looked at the sleep timings, okay? But really, we looked at it from today, beginning today. Sadhana means beginning with the morning program, rising early. Okay, this is important. Everything starts from there. If we can do this, then after this, whatever we do will be effective, will be more successful. Any other spiritual activity, I'm not talking about material. Whatever we read, we'll understand. When we chant, we'll be able to absorb. It will be very powerful. So we have to become serious about the morning program and practice in this particular time. Now that you're at home, we're not going anywhere. So sleep early, wake up early. Practice and see what a difference it makes to our consciousness. Okay. In any genuine spiritual process, rising early and worshipping God is essential. We'll see this in any religion. It begins with that. Okay. So tomorrow we do, not tomorrow, maybe day after tomorrow. This is a very big topic also, reading Shastra, how to read. And we look at quotes of Prabhupada that what happens when we read. Normally when we join the movement, people tell us that you have to chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regular principles. For some reason, this is not emphasized. But it's very powerful for changing our consciousness, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Okay, we look at that. Okay, so just to conclude, this point that rising early is important. And if when we are setting up, I mentioned that these sessions are for helping us to set up a good sadhana schedule for practicing Krishna consciousness. So one most important point is waking up early, following these principles, and arranging our altar in a proper way, which is recommended by ISKCON acharyas. So if anyone needs further help on these points, you can ask me or anybody else. Okay. So now if you have any question, you can ask. You can type it or you can ask me. So you can just unmute yourself and ask a question or type it in chat. Okay. So otherwise, tomorrow, day after, I'll send the notice for the next session where we look at reading Srila Prabhupada's books, organizing our sadhana in such a way that we can effectively do it. Okay. Hare Krishna.